Hey there, welcome in to the Spread and Essence football and NFL and sports betting picks podcast. I'm Nesson.com's Mike Cole, joined once again, and as always for the next at least close to an hour, Ricky Doyle.
Yeah.
Ricky Doyle, how are you?
I'm doing okay, Mike. How are you doing?
I am doing fine. It's getting to be that time of year where it's like, let's just get through it. Let's not get fired. Let's not make anybody mad. Let's not get, I'm brimming with holiday joy, as you could tell, where it's just like, I feel like every little interaction's about to set me off. It's tough. We're coming down the stretch here, week 16, week 15. I'm already
16, yeah.
16, yeah, sweet 16. So it's just we're kind of.
I feel like I'm in a handicap match against Father Time and Old Man Winter.
Okay, well, let's let's elucidate
the creaky bone weather a few weeks ago, and I think ever since that conversation, I'm just like,
you're starting to feel it
a little bit.
See,
a little bit.
that kind of
it's kind of nice out today, but
I know it's like 55.
but I got like dry skin, like
I'm
hands
taking
get
a little
chapped.
joy in your misery because we are similar in ages. It does feel like I have aged a little quicker than you have in some regards. So. Welcome. I'm with you. The dry skin is a major
will get you every
issue.
time.
Everything hurts. I'm fairly certain I have some sort of tear in my bicep thereabouts from throwing a football to myself.
Fatigue is a major factor
It's
this time of year.
It's not even physical. It's hard to describe. It's again, like I said, it's more just
it's a malaise.
Kind of
running. Malaise.
It's kind of running out of energy, kind of running out of F's to give, as they say. It's just
and I don't know about you, but I feel like there's just a lot of like, you have so little time to do so many things, and then you get into like this analysis paralysis situation, and you're just like, oh.
Let's tap into that a little bit more. The analysis by paralysis. What do you mean? Because I think I'm with you. I just wanted to see if we're on the same page. Like what? Like you have so
many
much
things
to do.
You don't even
know
where
to start, and then you end up. It makes it worse. I think that's called anxiety.
Yeah, you just like it's like you're staring at the whiteboard, and it's just the things start floating around because you're like, where do I dive in here? I know I have to dive in.
I have this bad habit too. If this is similar, where it's like, I know I have something I have to do, not even necessarily a task, but like a message I need to deliver, or a request I need to make, or just a deadline, and I'll put it off. And like if I don't do it right away, the anxiety builds and builds and builds for something so simple that I could, if I had just done it right away, it would have been fine. Like, I guess Christmas shopping is not totally out of the realm of this discussion.
That's a good example. And you know what? For me too, it's not just Christmas shopping. It's like little like ancillary gifts. Like I got some big stuff out of the way. That's great because you have to dive into that. Like you know.
I put that off too.
It's like if I don't do this now, then it's literally not going to come before Christmas.
Yeah.
But now there's other ones where I'm like, well, I could push it a little bit, and so there's just like this little tasks.
Yeah,
those are the worst, and they add up.
Yeah. And I think it's like I said, it's every walk of my life. Like I'm so bad at sending RSVPs like a wedding.
Yeah.
Because it's once I know it's getting close, I freeze. I freeze. I get paralyzed with I don't even know what it is. Such a strange dynamic, right? Like I just maybe I should talk to somebody about this. This doesn't feel like
this is why I'm here. Yeah, this is why we do this once a week.
This is our 52 minutes of therapy every week.
And to tie this all back, I feel like this is going on in the NFL a little bit right now.
Okay.
It feels like every team's dealing with a little bit of something. That's sort of my takeaway of this week.
It's December 17th in week 16. Yeah, that makes sense. It's a war of attrition, right?
Yep. But I feel like maybe more so this year than other years. Like this might just be like who gets to the finish line.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And that's why I'm feeling pretty good about my team. I'm ready, close to make a declaration on the Green Bay Packers. Well, I think I can't say I think they're going to win the Super Bowl because that's just like, I mean, if you ask me, I think they might win the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Because I was looking at the metrics, and we'll kind of get into this as we get a little bit more of our other stuff. I think they're like third in DVOA. I think they're like third in EPA. All the metrics point to them being very good, coming off a big win. And then to your point, I guess, they maybe aren't kind of hitting the same speed bumps that the other teams are. Like the Lions, we'll get into them. They are, spoiler, one of my picks. We'll get into our Week 16 picks at some point here once we kill enough time. Where I just look at the Lions. They've got a rash of injuries. The Eagles, I don't know if I can believe in them. And it feels like maybe it's another way of saying things are wide open, maybe more so than they have in the past. The AFC, when you look at the AFC, Patrick Mahomes' injury now too. Like there's a lot of uncertainty and instability. So I think a team like the Packers, if you just get through, like you might have to play the Rams in round 1. If you can get through that, you might have a better shot.
We talk about our old creaky bodies. Green Bay, full youth, right?
That's a good point.
They should be good for this time of year.
It's a young man's game.
It sure is.
I guess. I don't know.
What do you think? What do you think of Minnesota? Because I'm just looking at the Super Bowl odds right now, and so your Packers are 6-1 to win the NFC, right there with Minnesota, both 6-1.
Yeah.
So where those two teams are relative to each other, because I feel like Minnesota, like they're just their record blows me away. Every time I see it on the screen, it's jarring.
And they've been more impressive the last 2 or 3 weeks, right?
They've beat a lot of good teams.
I know. I still can't wrap my mind around it, and I'm not entirely sure why. Because like I do think for me, actually, I can wrap I do know why I can't wrap my head around it. It's outside these last 2 or 3 weeks, whatever it's been, it has not looked overly impressive, which is weird because I kind of brought this up last week when we were talking about the Chiefs, where it's like, is that impressive or lucky? And like, I guess when you're the Chiefs, you've earned the benefit of the doubt that it's impressive. When you're the Vikings, who are led by Sam Darnold and have questions, smaller questions on their roster, and it's just like, well, their history also doesn't help either, which isn't necessarily their fault, but like it's just it's a narrative and it's mind's eye type of thing. If you were blindfolded
and you strip away everything you know about those two teams,
the Vikings are much better.
The
right?
Vikings are probably better than the Chiefs, or
I guess with the quarterback
is
the issue, right?
It's probably a coin flip, right?
Yeah. Whereas I'm like, well, I much more believe that the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. Yeah, it's a good point. I'm still, now the more I talk about it, I'm like, maybe the Packers won't win the Super Bowl. I think they kind of have to hope for the Vikings and or the Lions get nipped early, because like having to go on the road twice, that would be a weird route, right? Like at various points in your path to the Super Bowl to have to go on the road to division rivals it feels like that doesn't happen a ton. So
I'll say this, I feel like coming into the year, and this is, I don't know, maybe played out hot. To a you burn yourself. Yeah. I feel like coming in the year was like, all right, all the really good teams are in the AFC. Like I felt like the AFC was on a different level, and it might still be the case.
I was gonna say we're not entirely sure that it's not.
Yeah, it might still be the case, but I do look at some NFC teams, and I'll probably get into this in our picks, and be like, I wouldn't want to play them in round 1. Like they got some real pains in the asses.
Yeah.
Like just weird pesky teams.
Which probably speaks more to like the deepness of that versus the AFC is top heavy.
Right. I was gonna say I think there's probably a clear delineation between the haves and the have-nots in the AFC, whereas at the NFC it's like those pesky teams are very capable of knocking off the best teams in the NFC.
Some of this is perception based on recency bias, right? Like right now you would not want to play the Bucs. Right now you probably really wouldn't want to play the Rams. You break everything down. It's like it's probably a better matchup than you realize if you're one of these teams that's gonna have to play them. But I mean, I wouldn't want to play the Bucs. I wouldn't want to play the Rams right now, just because I've seen it be pretty impressive recently. So that's that.
My football team, if you want to talk about them, which I'm sure we will in a few minutes, not feeling so great about them.
Do you want to do that now, or you want to get into it later? You want to talk about like the Mayo stuff?
We can let's table that. Okay. Let's get into that in a few.
I was going to check in with you on some Christmas stuff. It feels like we've kind of already gone to the football. Are you excited for Christmas? We kind of just talked about this last week. It's just more of like a weekly check-in at this point.
This is what we do.
I can't get over this fact that as I get older, it gets harder and harder to get excited for Christmas. And I guess that's kind of just chasing nostalgia at a certain point, but it's like we got a week. It's only a week. It just goes so fast.
I got a car story for you.
I would love to hear it.
I don't know if we. Yeah, I think I might have told you this, but I don't think we addressed it on here. Yeah, the windshield. So I got a new windshield because I was driving on the highway.
This will bring me into it.
This was actually, I think, prior to our last recording. I was on the way in, look over, had a little It's like a pebble must have kicked up or something. So
Yeah.
I'm like, oh god, this is just again. That's like the thing.
This is exactly
add
it.
it to the list.
Oh, we will get to it.
I cannot account for a pebble hitting my windshield on the way into Watertown.
Do I have a side view mirror?
No,
No,
you
I don't. It's been
You
gone
don't.
for 16
Hey,
months.
my inspection sticker.
Me too. My wife's getting pissed at me because it goes to
So
her.
that- but all right, I'm
This
glad
is the
this all
thing. I'm
came full
afraid to.
circle.
Like, I don't want to have to
This
go
is the
pay
stuff.
$80 to do this and that.
This is the stuff.
Yes.
And then I'm driving, and it was like a game of
Yeah.
Snake. Like this thing with the crack was just growing, and I'm like, oh god, like this might get to a point where it's not drivable.
Yeah.
Fortunately, that it never got to that point. But then I'm making an appointment to get the windshield replaced, and I couldn't get somebody to come out till the following like Thursday. So it was like 4 or 5 days I'm driving around with this thing. But anyways, replaced. I forgot how pleasant it is when you have a new windshield.
Oh.
Like it's just like wow, I'm reaching out. Like, is it even there? You know, 'Cause
that
my
must
old
be-
one sucked.
Can we? I might have to go out and like take a look at that because like I'm not good at cleaning that type of stuff regularly
Me
enough,
either. Me
and
either.
it's like
And
there's
you
this.
don't realize it until like
There's a
you're-
film on both sides. Not a film, but like it's. And I notice it a lot as somebody who has to drive to work at like 7:30 in the morning, going east for the most part. It's the sun's in my eyes the whole time,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's just like, what the hell is this? Like I Windex the hell out of this, and I still get so like now I kind of just want a new windshield just
yeah.
to
But if
go
nothing
through
else,
that experience.
I'm seeing the
Hell
road
yeah.
very clearly.
That is
Seeing the betting board clearly. Hopefully.
seeing the bright side of things, quite
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah,
I
I need
saw
it.
this the other day. Like I think it was. What do you think of people putting stuff on their cars, like wreaths, Christmas? I was going through a rotary in Waltham, and I think it was it a school bus? Was it a FedEx truck? I forget what it was.
But you know what though?
And it was behind me. I'm like, I can't wait to ask Ricky about this.
I sigh and
Kinda
I
depends on-
agonize. And part of it's out of jealousy. You're like I wish that I had the time and the ambition
I
to
was
get
gonna say-
outside and get a bunch of rip off tape.
I don't even
and-
know where to start.
And start
Exactly,
taping
yeah.
lights to my car.
Yeah.
But like it's just like that's so
that
far
was the
off
other
my
thing
radar.
I saw the other day somebody was driving around in a Jeep, just
Yep.
covered in Christmas lights. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't even know how you.
I mean, God bless them.
Like,
it's one of these things.
I'm sitting
like,
here being petrified to send out a thank you note or something, and these people have the wherewithal to do that. It's a different.
It's yeah.
different
Do I think it's
species.
foolish? Yes. Am I jealous? Yes. I wish I want to get that
Interesting
level of Christmas spirit back.
Speaking of interesting, the Chiron right now says, "Are you excited for Christmas? Are you excited for Christmas?"
Yeah, I'm back in. Talk
Okay.
myself back.
All right. I guess I'm on it. It's whatever.
You're gonna come into work tomorrow, and it's gonna my car is gonna be like Christmas vacation out there, just lights everywhere.
Oh yeah. Speaking of, this is only a story, not a story, but just a recollection. Remember that time that you and I got really excited for Christmas?
Maybe that's part of it too. Yeah, maybe that's part of it too.
I just showed up wearing a goddamn tie to work. I thought we were gonna have a nice short day of work.
That was probably the most festive we've ever been for any holiday.
I think that might be the line in the sand. I don't want to get into any more. I want to protect the relatively innocent, but like, good God, we were. I was like, this is gonna be an easy day. I'm like texting my wife. I'm like, hey, we'll be on the road by no time. Like, hey, this is if we were ever have a normal job, this is the closest it's gonna be where 2 o'clock in the afternoon is gonna roll around. We're gonna just say, hey, this is not. And we were just doing the most monotonous.
Yeah, it was
tasks.
just a busy bad day at work, and I just remember like the clock. I'm like, wow, it's getting late.
Yeah.
Like, it's getting later than we bargained for you, and just looking over.
It's
and
dark
seeing you
out.
with the Christmas time. Just like this pissed off look on your face,
I wish
knowing where you were at when you got here at 8 a.m.
I wish. God, I wish
That was just a rapid fall from grace.
I wish I'd known we were gonna bring this up because I'm pretty sure I have a selfie of myself that day that I sent to my wife.
Gonna
just
be a
being
great
like,
day at work.
kill
in
me.
the mirror.
No, it was like more just like, God, I gotta get out of here. Yeah, literally, nobody. This does nothing. So that was a fun day. Anyway,
So I guess if you want to look at it on the bright side of things, like, it could be worse.
so that
Could
was
be
the last thing is that we'll do on Christmas. Then we'll get in the NFL, whatever. Week 16. as we've ascended in our career.
Chap flips too. Chap flips
Me
dry.
too.
Like, this is
For the first time in my life, I'm carrying around chapstick. I've never done that before. I actually meant to mention that too. I was like, that's a sign I'm getting old. As people who are in leadership adjacent positions, I do think that's like something I am readily cognizant of, that like I need to go out of my way to tell people like, get out of here, don't come in, do this and this, because like I think I'm still chasing that one specific day and I'm just trying to get rid of it. It wasn't even anybody's fault really.
No, it was just busy. I think it was just more than anything.
So don't put off
it
stuff.
was busy at a time when you're like you're hoping everybody's just like, let's throttle down.
Yeah, bingo.
A little bit.
I mean, everybody else in the entire world's throttled down. Yeah,
on the gas,
scheduling this, scheduling that. It's like, oh my god. When you're scheduling stuff, make sure that you pocket or schedule time for the spread, Nesson's football and sports betting picks podcast that you can catch on all the Nesson family of multimedia networks. When you want to listen to it, you can listen to it on Spotify, Apple, wherever else you get your podcast, or you can watch it on the YouTube or Facebook or Twitch page of Nesson. So this drops every Thursday. Make sure you join us at least from here on through the Super Bowl. So,
what's your favorite type of schedule?
What?
Like a pocket schedule.
Oh,
I like pocket schedules, and I like
fridge magnets.
Magnet,
yeah.
I got a big Worcester Red Sox 2023 magnet still on my fridge.
I might have some Paw Sox ones on the. Speaking of Worcester,
yeah.
I might have some Paw Sox ones in the.
Love a good physical schedule.
No, I guess pocket schedule, but like specifically the ones that you get from like the pizza place or whatever.
Yeah, like it's right up next to the register.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like New England football.
Yeah. I like those two.
Yeah. What's your one you to play?
All right. This is a pretty bad football game.
There's not a great weekend.
No, it's not.
Which was supposed to be good last week, and it was not. So hopefully we get some.
I guess like early in the weekend might be okay, right? Like we got a couple Saturday the Thursday night has some implications, a couple decent Saturday games, whatever. But I'm not looking at either of those for my one unit play. I'm gonna take Tennessee, getting 4.5 in Indianapolis against the Colts. Really just need the Titans to stop beating themselves. So that Titans-Bengals game last week, the first game with 10 combined turnovers and 20 combined accepted penalties in Chicago, Minnesota in Week 13 of 2006. So this week, I feel like Tennessee has two factors working in its favor. One, a potential quarterback change. Like, I'm ready to pull the plug on Will Levis. I've gone in on him multiple times on this here program. So I just think if you do make the switch for this game to Mason Rudolph, that is a step in the right direction because I think he'll at least take care of the football. And then two, you're facing an Indianapolis team that is just as careless as you with the ball. Tennessee has an NFL 29 giveaways. Indianapolis fourth most with 25. I do think Tennessee, for all their flaws, are capable of slowing down Indianapolis's running game. If we've seen that with a couple of teams that rank up near where Tennessee is in terms of the rush metrics, like we've seen Houston and Minnesota kind of stymie in Indianapolis's rushing offense. So I don't know. Like I don't want to be laying 4.5 points with Anthony Richardson at this point. He's really only had one good game. That game against the Jets where they came back late. So divisional game, north of field goal. Just give me the points.
Did we behind the curtain type of stuff? We'd try to come up with storylines and things like that to discuss for these picks. And I saw I was putting those together today, and I saw you pick this game, and I'm like, I got nothing.
I got a hypothetical for you.
Okay.
So, well, you have if Will Levis does start. So we got two quarterbacks from the 2023 draft. Will Levis and Anthony Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're starting a franchise right now, let's assume C.J. Stroud is from that draft is the runaway winner amongst quarterbacks, even though he hasn't been great this year either. But you got to pick one quarterback: Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, and Will Levis.
It's probably
asking the important questions here in Week 16 of the NFL season.
Probably Bryce Young, but I don't know if that's recency bias because he at least played well like the last couple of weeks and then didn't this past week, so it's not too recent. Anthony Richardson, I've seen it, and Richardson's flashes have been by far the best.
So I think that's where I would probably land, even though I pick against him and tell you all the reasons why you shouldn't believe it. I think he would probably be my pick because of I think the raw tools are better than.
So the more
else's.
I think about it, I think I would do Anthony Richardson because I do think he came out early. Well, not like he didn't, not like NBA 2003 version of early, but like he's young, I think, and the tools are out of this world, through the roof. He is a guy who got rushed into a position because the team sucked, trying to take advantage of the contract, blah blah blah. If you can find somebody to harness it, like get him in a different system.
I was gonna say it could probably work in the right situation,
but I don't know. See, like,
and by work,
accuracy
I mean,
and decision making. Like, this is a Belichick thing. I always used to talk about that, like how accurate you are. If you're not accurate, you really can't get more accurate. It's a hard thing to improve on, so that might be an issue. But again, this is a very relative discussion among three people, or among three quarterbacks. I think he's the best of those three.
You got to pick your poison. I think Will Levis just sucks, and Bryce Young. Like, I can't get past the size thing when it comes to certain guys. Like, he's just small. He's just very slender back there. I don't know. Give me the guy that can at least run somebody over.
Of course.
Build your offense that way. But again, like I said, important questions there.
It is. Yeah, it's very good. Thanks for bringing that up. All right, my one unit play. I'm taking
starting slow.
Taking the over in the Jets Rams game. This game is in the Meadowlands. One thing about the Jets, mea culpa of sorts. A layered, convoluted mea culpa, I guess. When they acquired Devontae Adams, I said, I think they're going to get worse with Devontae Adams, which was a kind of a bold take. They have. I mean, they're 2-6 since drafting him. So I was technically right, directionally correct. The offense certainly has been better, and that might be a handful of things. I think Rodgers getting healthier, more in rhythm, coming off the injury is a big reason for it, but the numbers don't lie. Pre-Devontae Adams, they were number 22 by EPA. Since acquiring him, since that week 7 on, 14th. So that's pretty marked improvement. We talked about how bad, touched on it, how bad the games were last week. One game I was weirdly attracted to was the Jags-Jets game, so I watched a lot of that game. Maybe
did that do anything for you?
Yeah.
Seeing the end of that game.
That was sick. Yeah. I'm back in on Aaron Rodgers, who's been sneakily good this season. He has a 53.9 QBR, sneakily on pace to have his best season since 2021. He's in line with like the 2018/2019 version of him, like from the McCarthy into the LaFleur. Then he bought it and they built around him. He went nuts, won 2 MVPs. So he's kind of like the bread of the sandwich, the MVP sandwich. He's on the other side of it now. Yeah, that's good enough. That should be good enough, right? Like
is that why Bill Belichick is sitting at home saying, maybe the Jets wouldn't have been that bad of a gig?
Do we want to do a quick detour for that? Because who do you think leaked that, by the way?
I don't know.
I think the Jets 100% leaked it to make him look like a dick. And I think it's actually kind of awesome. Like, because I think that came out after the ESPN story when they were banging their chest saying it's an FU to the NFL, saying that, like, he didn't want the Jets job or whatever. And, like, the Jets just happened to leak out. Actually, you called about it, and we said no thanks. So it is kind of nuts, though, that he was like, I'm going to college. Like, he couldn't have gone somewhere to meet up with Rodgers, like the Giants, like we've been talking about, or like there couldn't have been a place for him to land. That's how unwanted he
is. I mean, do you write off the Jets as a landing spot? Like, say we were having this conversation a few weeks ago, and it's just like you look ahead to the offseason. Like, because I feel like some people looked at it like, well, Belichick would never go to the Jets.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's the case. We've seen some weird things. Like,
I think
people patch things up. Like,
I think the fact that
I think he looks at the situation and he's like, maybe I could win with that team.
My belief is they leaked it to make him look bad. So if they did that, there's no chance he's going to the
maybe
Jets
not
ever.
Now, yeah.
And I do think it would have been a tough. He has just dumped on them for the last 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
The only thing that I think he's desperate, clearly, and I do think it would
They're both desperate.
it would be fantastic if he ended up there just for the fact that he could come up here twice a year or try to go after the Patriots. So that is.
Insane.
But I think that was
desperation.
Of all the bad moves that the Jets have made, potentially leaking that story to make him look even worse was a nice chef's kiss, if we're being honest. Anyway, so one place he could improve them is their defense. It's been very, very bad. So as good as the offense has been, where they've scored 32, 26, 21, 27, 22, 21 in there, a couple stinkers. But the Jets defense with Robert Saleh, number 5 by EPA. Since firing him, number 31. Belichick would help that. So you've got a good offense, bad defense. On the other side, speaking of the bad defense, here come the Rams. I don't think the Jets have any answers for them. The Jets have allowed 100 yards on the ground 9 times, including 5 games of at least 145 yards. Here comes Kyron Williams. Sauce Gardner on the outside, dramatic drop-off. Last year, he was a 90.8 PFF grade. This year, 72. You look at passer rating against. It was 53 his rookie year, 76 last year, 81 this year. Now here comes Stafford, Kupp, who's going to be motivated to have a big game after last week, Puka. I just think they're going to score points at will. I don't, and again, if the only thing that was keeping me out of laying the points here with the Rams is that I think the Jets should be able to score as well. So I think the Jets too, they've faced some of the easiest schedules based on strength of offensive opponents. So this is a step up in class for a defense that got shredded by Mac Jones last week. Jones threw for 294 yards. Do you know the last time he threw for that many yards?
I don't.
Thanksgiving night, 2022. At Minnesota. So it's been that's how bad he's been, how bad that defense has been. The Rams, by the way, allowing the 6th most yards per play. I think the weather's going to suck, but I do think these teams are going to score some points. So I'll go over 46.5 here.
What's up with Sauce Gardner? I know you mentioned it. That's a pretty sharp decline. That's when it comes to cornerbacks, that's
probably
just an effort thing, right?
Yep.
Because that's a position that just demands max effort on a per snap basis.
Say something nice about the Patriots. Christian Gonzalez not in that boat, right?
No, he looks very good.
And to that point, I think it's buy-in. I think it's effort. So.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot else to go on with the NFC West. The thing's just a coin flip. So I'm actually low-key excited about Rams Jets. I'm a big Jets fan, I guess.
It's why you were agreeing this week.
Yeah, that's right. I'm also a big fan of the spread, Nesson's football picks and sports betting picks podcast. Maybe that's because I'm a co-host of it. If you want to be up to date on everything NFL and sports betting, join us here every week. Whether you want to listen to it on Spotify, Apple, wherever else you get your podcasts, or if you want to watch it on the various Nesson channels, you can do it on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Ricky and I reconvene here every Thursday, so make sure to join us for all of the best picks you're going to find this side of the Mississippi. What's your 2-unit pick?
All right, now let's talk about the Patriots.
Okay.
I'm taking them this week.
That's a big number.
This is a very big number, and that's really the only reason why here.
I'm interested to hear the case here.
No, and you know what? Honestly, a good chunk of it probably is narrative driven. You're never. Buffalo's stock has never been higher, and New England's stock has never been lower. And it's a divisional game, and I do think, I was looking at this game in the context of last week's Baltimore Giants game.
Yeah.
Where I think that closed at 16.5 or 17. I think it might have opened at 12.5. It was bet up a pretty fair amount. But that was a game where, the Giants, you look and the ceiling is so low when you have Tim Boyle and Tommy DeVito as your quarterback, and you see that game turning into a shootout with the Ravens. You're like, all right, there's a chance that this just gets out of hand early, and maybe that happens this week too. But I do think having Drake May allows the offense on the New England side to do something. And we have seen something from them at times.
14.5 for the guy who's that good in garbage time, that screams backdoor.
And maybe Buffalo lets off the throttle a little bit after last week's win over the Lions. But, I don't know. I see a spread that high, and immediately I'm like, well, you better be dealing with a backup quarterback or just an absolutely putrid offense. And I just think that there's enough there to work with that New England might be able to keep this within the number. That being said, it's not good, and it gets worse every week. Every week that we sit here, I think Gerard Mayo we're there. He's not going to make it.
You think he's done?
I think he's done. I think we're nearing the point where this past week was just the lowest of the lows.
Is he the worst remaining head coach in the NFL right now? Taking out of interims.
Probably, yeah. Who's he better than?
It's
like
a hard,
that, when you look at it that way. I can't say he's definitively. I can't say he's better than anybody because I have not seen one positive thing from him.
Who else do you think stinks? Like Doug Peterson?
Sure.
At least Doug Peterson's got a track record. So,
but Pierce even had his team played for him last year.
So the one thing though that I do wonder with Mayo is does he get a second season just because? You have to show at least some room for improvement. You know what I mean? Can he get better?
I err on the side of giving a guy a second season because it's
like when you first started driving, you probably sucked.
Sure.
And now you're.
But I think we're now getting to the point with some of the stuff that he's done himself no favors.
I'm only playing devil's advocate, by the way.
If they were just bad, that would be one thing. But the constant
they're a laughing stock.
The comments, the backtracking, now we're getting to a point where it's who the hell would want to play for this guy? If you're an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator, you want to join this?
And that's on top of reports out there saying they're not concerned about football. They're not, going through the interview process. And it's all starting. If you really want to squint hard enough, you can start to kind of make the math work. It just doesn't feel. It feels somewhat disjointed, somewhat directionless. Did they take for granted Belichick took care of a lot of that stuff? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now that he leaves, it's there's a million other things that he did that we didn't realize he just naturally did. And those are falling through the cracks and that exposes bigger picture issues. And it's now we need to find a CEO head coach. And this guy clearly isn't it. And it goes back to a lot of stuff we talked about all year where it's what on his resume made you think he was going to be good? Also, the reports that came out last year said, him and Belichick basically were tuning each other out. It was well, if he's the guy in waiting, he should be
absorbing as much information as possible so that when he takes over, he hits the ground running.
Right. So it's you should have known then that this was maybe an issue. And it's just, the complete lack of accountability. The one thing that you could do coming out of the bye, right, is have your team ready to play with a good game plan, ready to play hard, and just at the very least, if you get run out of the building the rest of the way, put the blame on you and no one else.
Yeah.
And he has come out and blamed his offensive coordinator and his players already since a wet fart of a game Sunday in Arizona.
And that's
just
the thing.
Unreal. Just take the blame and get through the season.
And this team has so many issues from coaching to player personnel to front office.
Sure.
They're going to need to fix a lot of these deficiencies. And now, as an outsider, you're just why do I want to be involved in that? If you're a free agent, the suck tax or whatever, that's real when it comes to this team, and it's getting higher and higher because
what is the selling point?
If you're a free agent, you don't want to come here. If you're a coach, you don't want to come here. It's getting and it's bad. And I think the only way to really rectify that is you kind of make peace with the fact that you rush this guy into a role he just wasn't equipped to handle. It's always everybody else's job, everybody else's fault but himself.
I hate advocating for people to lose their jobs, but it's just their best long-term play is probably to say, whoops, we screwed up.
Yeah.
We're going to make it right. And the first way we're going to make it right is we're turning over the entire football operation to insert adult football coach here and stay out of the way. And at least you got to get back to sea level, man.
Yep.
Never mind getting to the mountains.
It just feels like a guy who always probably thought he was the smartest guy in the room when Belichick was still here and convinced the right people. And then you get there and it's whoa, wait, I have to do what? Wait, I have to fill out this report? There's just those little things that you don't know because you just
100%.
You don't have the visibility into the countless workflows that Bill Belichick was involved in, and then you get in it and you're just okay, maybe I'm not as ready as I thought I was.
It's extremely important context too for dummies like us who are like, how hard it could be to coach an NFL team or whatever. It's like, actually, it gives you a better, understanding of what the 31 other guys are doing when it's like, this guy can't even. I mean, he walks something back every Monday morning. It's unbelievable.
Every week.
So, yeah, it's tough. So, anyway, my 2-unit pick. I still have to make a pick here.
Oh, that's right.
I'm taking Chicago.
To all that, I am taking the Patriots. Though.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. It's a lot of points. Taking Chicago.
Not that one.
Chicago catching 7 at home, at home, right? Yes, at home against the Lions. This is more just kind of a fate of the Lions based on the injuries. I know Dan Campbell came out and said on the radio either today or yesterday, he's like, hey, we're going to find a way. This is an opportunity for guys to step up. I mean, the rash of injuries is getting ridiculous with the Lions here to the point where it's almost disqualifying for the Super Bowl for them to win it all. They just lost, Alan McNeil and Carlton Davis and David Montgomery. But let's start on the defense. This is a defense that has started to kind of show cracks. They've allowed 99 points over the last 3 games. Granted, that has been a gradual step up in the opponent, whereas Detroit, Green Bay, and then Buffalo, obviously. But I just think there's opportunities for Chicago to expose some of those cracks. We were just talking about before we came on air, like, the Bears do have a lot of offensive talent. Whether you believe in the quarterback is one thing, but we've seen the flashes with him, and he's throwing to 3 receivers in DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and why am I forgetting the third? Keenan Allen, that at least look good on paper. Some of the numbers have been pretty impressive too. Those guys do a pretty good job of getting up. I think this is a big Rome Odunze game. I think this is maybe a breakout game for him going up against a secondary that is decimated and only getting worse.
Sounds like somebody's sawing down a Christmas tree.
I was gonna say I think it's gonna be like one of those one of those ice fishing holes just gonna come up out of the floor, or the entire thing is just gonna crash on us. We're gonna be dead. On the other side of the ball, like I said, Lions just suffered a pretty big injury. David Montgomery is out for the indefinite future. That's huge. Like, they rely on that 2-headed attack on running back. Jahmyr Gibbs could still do it, but Montgomery's like the ground and pound one of the two, right? So now you got, this is probably not a great landing spot against a decent defense, and you have to go outside in the cold in Chicago. I looked this up. Jared Goff, indoors since 2020 has a 104 passer rating. That's 16th of 64 QBs with at least 14 attempts per game. Outdoors, that number 104 drops to 88.6. He goes from 16th to 34th. I know that's a kind of an overplayed situation or cliche or narrative, but when you take away one of his running backs that really would be Montgomery is a former Bear. Like, that's the kind of guy that you want in this sort of game. When you don't have him, a lot more onus gets thrown on the quarterback, and that's going to be a tough spot for him. So I also think the Lions, despite what Campbell is saying, at some point, it's go into your shell and just get to the playoffs, man. So these two teams played just a few weeks ago on Thanksgiving. That was a close game, a game that the Bears at least should have sent to overtime. So I think that they can keep it within this number of 7, which feels pretty high for a divisional game this time of year with all the injuries too. So the Bears aren't good, though, either. I will say that.
Yeah, once the injuries start creeping over to the offensive side of things for the Lions, that's when it's like,
that's the thing.
Okay, now we're really playing with fire here. And especially when it impacts the running game, which is their bread and butter. Like, this is, it's getting real. It's getting real uncomfortable. And I think obviously you're starting to see it with some of the coaching decisions too, with like the onside kick. What was that? 12 minutes left in that game. That was one where I was doing something else, and they were lining up for the onside kick, and like I'm looking at the clock. And I'm like, is there like is that actually a faulty clock?
Is that one there?
Yeah, I was very thrown off. But, it speaks to just like sort of the lack of faith in the defense. And
like that is one way of looking at it, right? Like, the evidence is there.
Yeah, like they know what they're up against.
Yeah, and you go back to the Thursday night game against the Packers, where I did like them going for it there, but yeah, even when the stat nerds are like, no, you should have kicked the field goal, that's a pretty telling piece of evidence regarding your decision making.
Yeah.
So
it's like, things are bad and we know it's bad, so we got to resort to this.
Which is admirable in some ways, but that does catch up to you at some point.
Yeah, I was going to say, it makes it awfully difficult to, win 3 playoff games or whatever. So
Sure.
Especially when you get these pesky teams in the NFC like we talked about.
Yeah, that is fair. Assuming Mayo's gone, would you rather have the Bears job or the Patriots job?
The Patriots job. Because I think a lot of the issues are Mayo related. I think with the Bears,
it's not a good roster. Ownership might meddle.
Sure, but the Bears have some
That's the thing, the
front office issues
exactly,
of their own. There
right.
seems to be a power struggle going on there.
I don't like either one of the jobs, to be
No,
honest.
probably not.
But you do have quarterbacks in each one of them, so that's the
You have the
temptation.
So really, it might come down to which quarterback you like better. Patriots do have more cap space, I believe. So
weaker
that
division
probably
moving
plays in it.
forward too, probably.
Weaker division, yeah, that's a good point. And I like and the thing with the Patriots ownership too. It's sure there have been questions that they're getting a little bit louder, but it's like I still think by and large it's a good ownership.
I think you're probably right, but we're basing that on 30 years of evidence, 20 in which 25 were you didn't have to do anything.
Right.
And I don't mean to
Yeah.
undersell their jobs, but when you have the best coach and best quarterback of all time, the other stuff on the margins is probably easier than it is right now.
Yeah. But on the other side of that, it's like the Bears are the Bears.
That is the big issue with the Bears is that they are the Bears. So.
The bar is low, at least if you go to Chicago.
That's a fair point too. The bar is not low for us here at the Spread, Nesson's football and sports betting picks podcast that you can catch every week on the Nesson family of podcasts and vodcasts. If you want to listen to us, go over to Spotify, go over to Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to there on your one of your drives into work, whether you're going east or west, north or south. And if you want to, maybe kill some time at home by watching us, if you're trying to do, Ricky's doing his laundry in the background, you can throw on the Spread on Nesson's YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch page. All right, what you want you to play?
All right, those pesky teams in the NFC.
Or 3 units, excuse me, 3 units.
This is
Jeez,
3 units.
Louise.
3 units.
These are
This is the big one.
Grand Poobah. The whole enchilada.
Big tree lighting. The one I think that first came to mind probably for both of us when you start talking about those teams is Tampa Bay. And I feel like what a real missed opportunity to get in on Tampa Bay a few weeks back, or
I know
more than
they
a
were
few
like
weeks back at this
9-1
point
to win the division.
It was clear like they just got to sort of weather this storm. Mm-hmm. It was in the injuries when you see Mike Evans and Chris Godwin go down. It was like, okay, those are 2 high-profile injuries, but at the same time, there was enough there.
I forgot that those guys got hurt.
There was enough there. You're like, I could see a path, especially with given some of the teams that they had on their schedule to like. They're not done. Like they could climb back into this thing, and not only did they climb back into it, but like pretty good.
Yeah,
they're a pretty good team. I think that offense is legit. So I'm taking the Bucs this week, laying 3.5 in Dallas Sunday night. So in terms of offense, top 5 in terms of EPA per play: Buffalo, Baltimore, Washington, Detroit, and then Tampa. So. It speaks to the company that they're in. I just think they're dynamic. They run the ball, they throw the ball. They're pretty good in pass protection. I look at that running back room, and especially now that David Montgomery went down in Detroit, like that's got to be one of the better running back rooms in the league. I mean, you're able to do mix and match, keep guys fresh, just do a lot of different things offensively. Defensively, I think they're getting better. If nothing else, they're not afraid to come after you. 3rd in blitz rate. There's something sort of intangible there. Like I just like their compete factor. Mm-hmm. I like that they play for their quarterback. I think there's a leadership there.
Play for the coach too.
This is a team they should win out. You get Dallas this week and then back-to-back home games against Carolina and New Orleans. So look, the problem is they might run into Green Bay in round 1. So which is going to be an awesome game. But for this week, I think the number's probably short because you get Dallas coming off the win against Carolina. That I think that said more about Carolina than Dallas. I think everybody's got a little too ahead of themselves with the Panthers. So I like Tampa in this game. They're just they're a team that you want to start looking at like dark horse contenders in the NFC to maybe make a little noise, and they're up there for me.
So let's see. I have the numbers here. Would you
3.5 points? I don't know if I had mentioned that.
Yeah, maybe whatever. It's immaterial.
Yeah.
Any interest in them? 33-1 to win the Super Bowl.
No, I would like them at 14-1 to win the NFC. Better.
So the more I look at it, though, I'm looking at their schedule, and they're just a tough nut to crack, right? Because they start the season with
they have beat
wins,
up on some bad teams.
wins
recently.
over Washington, Detroit, and Philly, which 3 wins that look fantastic in hindsight. But they had that run there where they lost 4 straight to Baltimore, Atlanta, Kansas City, and San Francisco. So like when they have, I don't know what to glean from those. Like that's 7 games. It looks they beat. Yeah, they also beat. I mentioned the Philly one. So they I think they have played a relatively easy schedule. They have one of the easiest remaining schedules with Dallas, Carolina, New Orleans. So it's just hard to say. If I had to make a pick, one thing I thought it was. Go ahead.
I was gonna throw a couple toss-ups at you. But
Okay.
Finish.
No, I was just. I know there's no real case to be made for this, but I kind of want to bet it anyway. I don't even know if there's a. Josh Allen's wrapped up MVP.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield is 200-1. He's probably not going to win the MVP, obviously, but his numbers are staggering. They're 8-6. He's thrown 32 touchdowns.
Can there be some other secondary award that
That's
we can
what I was
give
trying
to, a guy
to come
like
up
that?
with one. He's completed 71% of his passes, 3,600 yards. I mean, it's just without a bunch of guys.
Yeah. It's like maybe in a different season that gets him a little bit more into that conversation.
Like he is the 1998 NFL MVP right there. Like it's just, I was like racking my brain trying to come up with an idea for it.
There's got to be some sort of award.
Because like offensive player of the year, he's not. Comeback player of the year, he's not. Like it's just, he'll probably, he's the Pro Bowl starter. If does the Pro Bowl exist anymore? I don't. So like that's it. But that's. I was trying to find a way to make that work. I don't think it's going to get there.
Would you rather have the Bucks or the Rams at 14-1 to win the NFC?
The Rams.
I think I probably would too because of the coach. I think gives
literally
them
just looking at it from a Packers perspective, but like that in a 1-game sample, fully or relatively healthy Puka and Cooper Kupp is catching passes from Stafford. They're playing at home too for at least a start. Like that's.
Done it before.
Huh? Yeah, right. Yeah. Coach is better. I mean, it's just.
There. Would you rather have Tampa at 14-1 to win the NFC or Houston at 11-1 to win the AFC?
Houston 11-1 to win the AFC. I might actually bet that because I do think they have a kind of forgotten Titan type of feeling to them, where it's like it's probably not going to happen, but I think it's far more likely that they get hot and Stroud plays out of his gourd for 3 or 4 games in a row, and they find a way to get there than I do Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Trying to find like those secondary teams right now, because like the AFC, you got Buffalo, Kansas City, Baltimore is kind of your tier 1. NFC, I would say Philadelphia and Detroit are your tier 1.
Yeah, actually,
so like
where
are those teams in the pecking order beyond those teams?
There's no value on like the Vikings and the Packers of the world anymore. So it's just like the Steelers, you don't want any piece of necessarily as a future. So, it's interesting.
Chargers, I think, are a year away.
Yeah.
They're at 15-1 to win the AFC.
That's just the number's not there anymore. They were like 50 like 6 weeks ago when I mentioned it, or 30.
Houston's probably the cutoff in the AFC for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
At 11-1.
Yep, I agree. My 3-unit pick. This is like mostly just trends based. So I'm just about to rifle off a ton of numbers here.
All right.
Taking Pittsburgh, catching 6.5 on the road at Baltimore. I mean, just some stuff. Let me hit you with some numbers here. I saw this specifically from Action Network. From week 5 on in his career, Mike Tomlin, 50-21-1 against the spread as an underdog, 24-5-1 against the spread in divisional games. After a loss by 7 or more, 10-1 against the spread. That's just kind of nuts. Late season divisional games, week 14 and on, 44-27-1 against the spread. So Tomlin is the guy in this situation. They are 5-1 as an underdog this season. Baltimore, meanwhile, 2-3-1 against the spread as home favorites. Tomlin in his career as a dog, 62, 36-5. This is another thing I was just looking at. They've just owned the Ravens. And so since in the 2020s, they are 8-1 against the Ravens, the Steelers are. The only loss was a 2-point loss in 2022. All 9 games were 1-score games, and all but two were decided by this number or less. 16 of the last 19 games, dating back into the 10s, have been 1-score games. So like I said, 8-1. If you take away the Baltimore series, the Steelers in the 2020s are 42-29. If you take away the Pittsburgh games, the Ravens are 50-22. So it's like, the Ravens have been severely injured or detrimented by this series, whereas the Steelers' numbers look a lot better because they've dominated this. I just, it feels like the perfect spot. Coming off of a loss, divisional game, you got to have it. They put up a competitive effort. This number, I think, was much lower on the look-ahead line. It's kind of been juiced up because they got their asses whooped. There's some injury issues for the Steelers as well, but Tomlin said he's optimistic, which could just be coach speak, that TJ Watt's going to play. He's hurt. Sounds like George Pickens could also be back too. This just has 17-13 written all over it, so I like getting 6.5 here with the Steelers against the Ravens.
Yeah, all those trends, I
don't mean to
laying them out. You're just like, so what am I missing?
Yeah, I hate reducing it just to that, and
so then it's like, I just get a weird feeling.
I know.
Then I'm like, maybe it's just the Steelers are. This is last week was the beginning of the.
That's the only fear.
The big time regression that we expected to come maybe 6 or 7 weeks ago.
I was gonna say we were wearing shorts probably at that point.
Yeah, maybe now it's finally coming. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, this is a weird one. I was leaning Pittsburgh.
I didn't catch much of that game on Sunday. The Steelers. This is unspoken so far. The Patriots playing on the West Coast last week really screwed things up. Where we were so excited to watch these games, and it's like, oh, that's right, we live in New England, and we get blacked out TV window and don't get to watch all of those games. So I didn't see, although this game was on, the Steelers Ravens game. I think it's kind of wild that the Steelers Eagles game. It's kind of crazy that it just hasn't happened to the Steelers much this season, where you get caught in a spot where you just can't totally keep pace, but that speaks to how good they are at game planning from week to week and just being ready to play. So I think this is a great bounce back spot against an opponent they know very, very, very well.
That is a tough way to close out your season, huh? Your scheduling standpoint, you have Philly and Baltimore on the road in back-to-back weeks. You play Christmas against the Chiefs,
yeah,
and then you close out against Cincinnati. It's like, oh boy.
Yeah, this is the fifth toughest schedule.
And you're trying to find your footing going into the playoffs. Like, this is a team that they might be limping in there, literally and figuratively.
I mean, really, they had the back-to-back weeks at home against the New York teams, and then since November 10th, it's at Washington, home Baltimore, at Cleveland, at Cincy, home Cleveland, at Philly, and then you talk about Baltimore, Kansas City, Cincinnati. It's all right there in front of them, though.
Are we back out on the Steelers?
No,
I don't know if
we never said
they
were going to win the
I don't know if we were ever in on them, but I feel like we started at least giving them a little bit of
begrudging respect.
Yeah, I guess
for
that's a good way
for what they are.
Yeah,
it's like they're not gonna go on a deep run. What's I mean we've fulfilled our time here. I'm trying to find the NFL playoff picture thing real quick, just to kind of see where we're at right now. Nobody has a good, easily accessible play. Oh, here we go. CBS Sports. Shout out you guys. If the playoffs started today, the Steelers would play the Broncos. So you like them to get to the divisional round if they have to play the Broncos in the first round?
Yeah, I could see them winning that game.
Okay. Yeah. So at least get to the divisional round, then everything, all bets are off. So they've got a chance there. So you got anything else?
Nope. Let's get out of here.
Let's go. This has been The Spread. Thanks for joining us. That's Ricky. I'm Mike. We'll talk to you again next week. Goodbye.